Now we have 4 extraordinary women who are living this day to day, and because they understand the need to have women empowerment, they're going to join us on the panel today. And they're going to each talk about their individual call to action to invest in women to better address the humanitarian crises of today. I would say each of them truly embodies the spirit of the Aurora Prize: courage, commitment, and impact. And we're honored to have you here with us today. And I'd ask you, as I introduce you, to come up and take your seats on the stage, and we will get started with our panel. First is Dr. Leymah Gbowee, who is a Liberian peace activist and women's rights activist. And I might add, a Nobel Peace Laureate, and we're delighted to have you with us here today. Dr. Josephine Kulia, who's founder and executive director of the Samburu Girls Foundation in Kenya. And she's done extraordinary work rescuing young girls from marriage and other abuses. Marguerite is also known as Maggie Barankitsi. She's the founder of Maison Salmon Shalom, whose mission is to protect and promote the rights of children of Burundi. She's one of our Aurora Prize finalists, so she's been in our sites for some time. And finally, Sayeda Ghulam Fatima, who's General Secretary of the Bonded Liberation Front. And she's a Pakistani activist fighting against slavery for human rights and labor rights, and she is known as the Mother Teresa of slaves. So thank you all for being here. And as I said, we'll speak for about 30 minutes, and then we'll have about 15 minutes for questions. So first, we're going to start with our Nobel laureate, Leymah Gbowee, and I'm going to ask each of the participants to draw on their personal experience of how having women at their table made a difference, and then put out a call to action of what they want the world to do to protect women, girls, and put women at the table. So Leymah is co-founder of the Women's Peace and Security Network Africa. You've seen firsthand the need for women at the table, and your involvement in the UN Sustainable Development Goals and so many other activities, not to mention the mother of 7, gives you a unique and profound insight. So what is the world not doing right, in your view?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I always like to do these kinds of panels with real-life examples and ask people to get involved. We have beautiful mountains around Armenia, and if each and every one of us went on the top of the mountain to see the exquisite view of this country, but with one eye covered, we will not be able to see it fully. There will be some pieces that will be missing from our view. And this is my theory of how the world is functioning. We're working with one eye covered. Excluding women from peace processes is just like that, half blindfolded. I think it's important because even before the formal peace process, women are on the ground already beginning peace processes. They are the ones putting their lives on the line. And I can sit here and give you examples. In 2003, we had a failed disarmament process in Liberia. The UN had gone in, they did everything wrong, and the fighters started shooting again when we're supposed to be disarming them. The next day, we called out in all of our native language, and the fighters decided to lay down their arms. We sent the women in the cantonment site, and there was this one woman who went and met this soldier who had been badly wounded, and she was feeding him and feeding him. And when he made up her face, he asked her to sit him up. And she did just that, and he asked for her daughter. And she said he died. She died during the war. And he said, I know. She asked him, how did you know? He said, because I killed her. She came back to us crying. And the question I asked her was, did you stop feeding him? She said, no. I continue to feed him. Isn't that what peace is all about? So when we talk about women's involvement in peace processes, it's a group of people. You talk about us not being better than men, but I think we're more thoughtful. It's not about our egos, it's about the well-being of the community.
And just any call for the world to do more?
Well, I think the world needs to take the blindfold out. And if I may speak in my typical voice, the men need to really get to the place where they tell the rest of the world they are exhausted pretending to know it all when it comes to peace processes. Because there is no know-it-all. Women are the ones who know the home inside out. I can walk into my house and I'll know where to find everything. There's no way any man can say he knows the community better than any woman. And peace is about the community. Peace is about the entire nation. And peace is about people. So it's about time that we all come together to do this. There's Beijing, there's 1325, but until we practicalize these things, we will continue to have these panels, always making cases for women. And personally, I'm exhausted because I know we can do the job. We've proven that we can do it, and it's time to join hands and do the work and stop asking.
Now, let me turn next to a courageous youth activist who is on the ground doing it. She traveled here from Kenya, where she's been rescuing girls from virtual slavery and getting them an education. You've been battling, we talked yesterday about an 8-year-old girl that she rescued from child marriage, but she's battling against cultural practices, female genital mutilation, child marriages, and faces some very strong opposition from her village, from both men and women, I might say. So what should the world do to help you?
Thank you very much, Nancy. I grew up in a typical village in northern Kenya, where girls going to school is history. Girls are a source of livelihoods for the family. And if you look at the picture on the screen, that's an 8-year-old we rescued on Wednesday, and now she's in school. The next picture is me with her, and that's our girl center. And those are the kind of girls we rescue from harmful cultural practices, and these are child marriages, where the youngest bride we've rescued so far is 7 years old. And we also rescue the girls from female genital mutilation, which happens during the day of the wedding. That child on the first picture is standing on her wedding day, and she is already cut on that picture. They cut the girls on the day of the wedding. So we rescue the girls sometimes before the day of the wedding to prevent her going through the cut. And the third issue we rescue the girls from is from the beading, whatever the beads on her neck on the first picture or something like this, where the young men in the village who are not married can pick any girl as young as 8, 9, or 10, buy them beads in exchange for sex. So these girls get pregnant, and they're not allowed to get pregnant before wedlock. So once they get pregnant, they go through crude abortions, or they wait for them to deliver these children and kill them. So we rescue both the girls and their babies. So it's been 3 years. We've rescued over 1,000 girls. We are supporting 258 girls to school. But it's been tough for us because being a girl from my village, one, I was not supposed to go to school. I should have been married a long time ago. But because of one strong woman who was my mother, and she fought for me to be in school because she was taken out of high school, second year of high school, to get married to my father as a third wife. But she fought for us, her children, to be in school. So I went back to my village. I'm a nurse by profession and worked there, continued rescuing girls. My own cousins, who was married at 10 years, and took her to school and had my uncle arrested and had the whole village be against me. I got cursed by the elders, and they were hoping I should die because I'm going against their culture. But today I'm happy because Kenya as a country has laws protecting the children, and those are the laws we are using to protect the girls through our organization, but it's been tough for us because we do not have the resources, and that is where I ask the world to support us, because we need most of these girls to go to school, because if I did not go to school, I'd not be here today sharing with all of you the good work that we are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, I'll ask our two Aurora Prize finalists to comment. And first, Sayeda Ghulam Fatima, who runs a Pakistani bonded labor liberation front that's fighting to free slave workers, both men and women. And you've successfully raised awareness of your efforts and millions of dollars through social media. University students around the world are preparing documentaries on your efforts. And I wonder if you could comment on your own experience and explain how the rest of us might use social media to address the issue of bondage and better galvanize the world to address slavery.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I must thank you to Aurora Prize for Humanity, Awakening Humanity, for providing me such a wonderful audience here to talk with them. I think that my long struggle, it's around more than 35 years. And I was a teenager when I start my struggle, and I realized that women and girls are more deprived. They are privileged and they need some support to get out from that bondage and slavery. So thus I just think about them, and then around more than 80,000 slave workers. Among those, more than 50,000 women are freed up to now. And then my struggle, a long struggle, came up through Human of New York and CGI. I must appreciate them. They give the voice to voiceless workers, and in this way, this became the social media campaign.
And how would you like the world to help you?
Yes, I must say that my fight, my struggle against slavery, bonded labor, injustices, and discrimination. So please come forward and join hands. Together we can end bonded labor, slavery, injustices, and discrimination, and we can bring the change. We can bring the change, and we can change the world, a peaceful world without free of bonded labor, slavery, without injustice, and we can change the world.
And you are changing the world, so thank you. Maggie Baron-Keitze has founded the Maison Shalom in the midst of the 1993 genocide or mass atrocities in Burundi, saving many children and continuing that fight to integrate the education of the children of Burundi in a way that is fundamentally altering many children's lives. So could you maybe just comment on that experience and what the world can do to help integrate children into solving today's humanitarian crises?
Merci beaucoup. Je suis aussi reconnaissante de venir ici rêver avec vous, mes frères et sœurs, un monde où il fait bon vivre. Je n'ai jamais voulu créer réellement un centre pour accueillir les enfants. Je n'avais jamais pensé faire le travail que j'ai fait. Je suis née dans un pays où, je crois, depuis l'indépendance, c'était toujours des massacres. Je suis née rebelle. J'avais grandi dans une famille profondément chrétienne. J'apprenais à prier le Notre Père. Et dans la maison de ma maman, c'était toujours accueillir même les différences, les Hutus, les Tutsis. Et puis, j'ai remarqué que c'était faux, que c'était seulement les apparences. Et puis, à 16 ans déjà, je me suis révoltée. J'ai quitté l'école parce que je disais, ce que nous apprenons à l'école, il n'y a pas de valeur humaine. Qu'est-ce que je peux faire? Et finalement, j'ai adopté des enfants de 2 ethnies, Hutu et Tutsi. Ma famille biologique ne m'a pas comprise. Et puis, finalement, je me suis fait accepter. Mais ce qui m'a poussée à créer la Maison Shalom, c'est ce mois d'octobre 1993. J'avais perdu beaucoup de ma famille, une 60aine de personnes, mais je voulais toujours faire croire aux gens, montrer que c'est possible de pardonner. Et j'ai protégé les gens qui n'étaient pas de mon ethnie, mais les gens de mon ethnie eux-mêmes sont venus se venger et m'ont attaché et ont assassiné 72 personnes devant moi, dont une amie Tutsi comme moi, qui était mariée à un Hutu, qui m'a regardée et qui m'a dit, Maggie, dans les yeux, je te donne mes enfants. Il faut les entourer d'affection et d'amour.
You have to surround them with care and
Je vais
love,
mourir avec mon mari. Alors j'ai compris.
and I will
Et c'était
die
ma
with
vocation
the husband
de
and with
créer
my
une
husband.
nouvelle
And I understood that my
génération. Une
mission
nouvelle
is to create new
qui osera
new
casser
generation
ce
who
cycle de
would
violence.
commit
Qu'est-ce
itself
que le monde
to
fait? Vous me posez la question.
break this
Je n'aime pas réparer des pots cassés. Je n'aimerais
deal of
pas m'occuper des
violence.
orphelins. Alors,
I don't
parmi
want
vous, sûrement,
deal
des décideurs,
with
à
orphans.
commencer par vous qui avez travaillé
There are
comme
people
ambassadrice des
among
États-Unis,
you
de
who
refuser,
are decision makers.
de
You
refuser
were
l'indifférence.
a
Nous
US
sommes une
ambassador.
même famille humaine.
You have to stop
On a parlé
the
de la Syrie, mais imaginez-vous, chez moi, maintenant, 10% de la population
indifference
a fui le pays.
environment.
Moi-même,
10%
j'ai fui
fled
le pays.
Burundi.
La
I
communauté
fled from my
internationale
country myself.
devait
And the
aussi
international
s'occuper
community
de ces personnes qui
must deal
souffrent dans l'indifférence. Parce
with
que
those who
les
suffer from
Syriens, ils
indifference,
sont chez vous,
because
surtout en Occident, ils vous dérangent. Mais peut-être qu'en Afrique, loin, ils ne viennent
The
pas
staggers
vous embêter.
run
Alors,
to you,
nous
because
sommes
in
une même
Africa,
famille humaine, et je pourrais
one
vous demander
family,
une faveur, ceux qui
and
vendent
I
des
can,
armes,
I
ceux
want to ask
qui ont fait des-
you, those
de la
who
misère
are trading
de leurs
in
frères et
weapons,
sœurs,
in
leurs
arms,
fonds de commerce.
who create misfortune about
Réfléchissons
sisters and
comme
brothers.
une même famille humaine.
Listen to us.
Merci.
Think that we're one family.
Wow. I mean, these are extraordinary, moving stories, and you can see how they're affecting change through their sheer force of will and understanding that, as Maggie said, we're all part of the same humanity. I might go around one more time before we'd open up for questions and just put the question to the panel is, how can you overcome that mentality? Is it person by person? Is it house by house as you're doing it? Or does it need a stronger push from the international community And what are the biggest cultural obstacles that you face in your own community that you need help overcoming? Indifference, not seeing that we're part of the same humanity? Is it education? What would the priorities be to be able to change that community and the world to overcome those obstacles that you all face? And maybe we'll just start with you again, if that's okay.
Well, I've come I don't want to say full circle because life, I'm still going and I'm still doing. But sometimes even the littlest thing that you would think doesn't matter has a huge impact on the work that you do. I've been an activist for many years now, and in my own country, when I started first, one of the biggest obstacles to my work was the fact that at the time I was not married. That was an obstacle. How can a single girl put together all of these women from religious groups, and she's a sinner, you know, the religious bit, all of those things were the things that were pushing. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is looking at the bigger picture, not the obstacle. For me, as the leader of the mass action, it was about those women who would never sit on this platform, those who could never get on an airplane, those who had been raped and victimized numerous times. How could I be their voice and put it out there? In 2003, we went to see Charles Taylor, our president at the time. And when we asked to meet with him, he had said we could only see him if we were more than 25. At that time, we were a police state. We were 2,500 that showed up that morning.
Wow.
And this is just to show how fed up the women were with the war. When we got there, the women were somewhere else. I walked down to negotiate with the security, and they said, boss said, if you're less than 25, we can't let you in. And I asked, what if we're more than 25? He said, and he smirked and said, we'll see. So whip out my phone, call the women, ask them to form a queue, and all he could see was a sea of white. Oh my God. We came, and then President Taylor said he won't see all of us because he was sick, he'll only see 10. At that moment, I don't know what I was thinking, but there were guns all in our faces. The only thing I remember was the day before, the attack that we had seen in one community, the babies that had been shot at, the wounded people, women who had been violated, and then the same government was refusing to give them humanitarian aid on grounds that they were not at a recognized internally displaced center. Anger has always fueled my work. When I get angry, I don't pick up a gun. I use every moral authority I have to confront, make angry, and to just disturb whatever authority there is. If you call that a revolution or a rebellion, then that's what I am, a rebellion or a rebellious person for peace. So I'm walking straight past his guard, and he said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to tell the president he will come down and meet us. And then he said, why are you going to put yourself in trouble and put us in trouble? I said, I would rather be in trouble halfway up. They said, oh, he changed his mind because some people had gone ahead of us and said, there are some angry women coming up. And then he came down and offered us seats. We refused. We sat on the floor. Because for me, in all of the work I do, in the past, in the present, it's never about where I find myself. It's never about the convenience that I have. It's about those individuals who will never, ever find a place. So never thinking about obstacle, just thinking about how can we solve this
And having a fair amount of
and
courage.
move on.
Wow. I think all of us were very relieved when Charles Taylor was finally brought to justice and is going to spend the rest of his life in prison. I might turn to either of you if you would like to comment on that, or perhaps how you get men to think that we're one type of humanity. How do you, you're only half of the equation, so unless you convince the other half, you're not going to have progress. Maybe, Maggie, you'd like
Oui.
to say something?
Souvent, nous voulons aider, mais nous n'écoutons pas les personnes qu'on veut aider. Souvent, c'est vrai, on est dans les bureaux et puis on réfléchit, on se dit, nous devons aider, par exemple, les enfants africains.
We are thinking,
Mais on ne connaît pas
we tell
la
each other that we
On
need
n'est
to
pas
help
allé
the African
vers ces
people, but we do not know
pour
the
les écouter.
culture.
Et ces
We do not
personnes
listen to
deviennent
these
seulement des
people.
bénéficiaires, ne sont pas une
They are
partie
just the
de notre
receivers of
famille. Et il
assistance. They do
manque
not become
d'écoute,
members
il
of our
manque cet
families.
amour. Alors,
Nobody is
ce qui
listening to
dérange
them. They do not
souvent,
get.
pourquoi
They do not get
même
love.
les aides, on les emploie mal,
So
même ce
there's
que-
something that
parce que si on
hinders
regarde ce que la Banque
us.
mondiale a donné,
It's
ce que
that
toutes ces
these people are being
organisations,
used.
ce que l'UNICEF, ce que le PAM
If you
donne,
look at
et on
what
va
the
se
international
dire, la
organizations
misère,
have been
on a
doing,
continué à descendre. C'est
no
que
matter what,
peut-être
we
il
see
faut faire un
poverty
effort,
and
faire
misery
violence à
continued.
soi-même pour écouter.
But efforts, perhaps efforts need to be made. Perhaps
Vraiment apporter
we need
une
to
vraie
be,
dignité. Donner d'abord de la dignité
we need to
à la personne
give people
qu'on veut aider.
dignity and love.
Yeah, basically for me, I would say the challenges are many from different angles, as you said, right from the men and the women. But I think sometimes it takes the courage to just stand up against what you think is wrong around you. And that is what I did, because mostly when I started this, I got so many discouragements. I was told, first of all, you're a woman, women do not have a voice in this community, no one will listen to you. And secondly, the laws had not been passed, so I had nothing to support us. But finally, because the laws are in place and we are using the laws to protect the children, it's difficult because the same people who passed the law, for example, in government, we are supposed to work with the police to help us rescue these children. But they don't care because they say, oh, this is culture, and the Constitution is contradicting itself. It says the culture is acceptable, and again, these things are illegal. So the moment we report the police, sometimes we get a lot of resistance from them. And of course, we get the resistance from the villagers because majority are illiterate. The community I come from is 90% illiterate, and mostly are women, because women are not supposed to go to school because they are supposed to be sold off to fetch cows for the family. So they are a source of wealth for the family. So basically, it's a battle between culture and the law, and we are trying to bridge in because the implementation of the law is lacking.
Saida, maybe I'd follow on with a question for your experience in Pakistan, which has laws that are not enforced. And how do you see the movement that you've created as changing those laws, or is it simply a matter of enforcing them? And how can you use the institutions of government to be more effective in your fight against slavery?
Thank you. Actually, what she mentioned earlier, it's a really a fact, and same situation in my country. When I start struggle against slavery, against bonded labor, at that time there was no law in my country. And I struggle with long struggle and very hardships. I succeed to get the decision from the Supreme Court of Pakistan in the favor of the bonded laborers. In this decision, court instructions to the legislator, to National Assembly for the legislation. So in the light of that decision, Supreme Court decision, Government of Pakistan, 1992, adopted the Bonded Labor Abolition Act 1992 after the very, very, very hard and very long struggle. I bore up many hardships. I went many times to jail. I was beaten by the police, and I was attacked many times by the owners. Owners attacked me on my family. In the result, I am on my half leg, and my one young brother, he became permanent disabled. The implementation, so decision came in 1988, and then the law was adopted in 1992, and its rules 95, but still we are striving for the implementation of that law, implementation of Bond Labor Abolition Act, implementation of legal laws and minimum wage. People are striving for living wage in the world, but here in my country, we are striving for the minimum wage, where for 1,000 bricks, 4 people can make, 2 adults, 2 children, in 11 to 12 hours. And in 11 to 12 hours, they made 1,000 bricks, and they get 300 rupees, 400 rupees, and minimum wage right now, 962 rupees. So the peoples, they are dying, they are suffering a lot, they are not getting minimum wage, they are not free, I have to face many, many challenges. From one side, when I go to the implementers for the implementation, they said, oh, you should change the name of your organization. There is no bonded labor in Pakistan. If I went to owners, no, you should not interfere in our business. You are destroying my business, our business. So the owner association, masters, landlords, big mafia. So there are 4.5 million only in one industry slaves working today in Pakistan and striving for their rights. So what can you imagine about other sectors like agriculture, coal mines, etc. But with the passage of time, I became the voice of voiceless people. And I once again thank you, all of you, who heard the voice of those downtrodden strata of my community, of my country.
Thank you. Okay, we've got about 15 minutes for questions, and I would say that this is one of the more powerful group of women that I've heard from, and I think it's extraordinary stories and acts of courage, I would have to say, on each of you. That's very impressive. I had first there in the back there. Maybe stand up and maybe just introduce yourselves as well. Here, we'll go down here. And, you got it? Okay.
Rula, I'm a journalist from Lebanon, Beirut, a Nahar newspaper. My question is for Maggie. Quand vous gagnez the Aurora Prize, what will you do with the money? Qu'est-ce que vous allez faire avec l'argent quand vous gagnez? Quels sont vos projets? Et félicitations pour les femmes, c'est intéressant ce que vous avez dit tout à l'heure.
Merci beaucoup, mais je vous ai parlé, maintenant que je suis réfugiée, je suis au Rwanda.
Now I'm a refugee, now I live in Ireland.
Burundais. Sur une population de 9 millions, nous avons plus de 300 000 réfugiés burundais qui sont
We have about
éparpillés dans les 4
300,000
pays
refugees
Et
They live
je suis
in 4
maintenant, je
neighboring
m'occupe
countries.
dans un camp de réfugiés au Rwanda où il y a 50
currently
000
I'm
personnes.
live in
La
Ireland.
moitié sont des
I
enfants.
work at a camp
25
of
000
refugees
enfants
with
qui sont là
50,000
et
people,
beaucoup de
half of
jeunes.
which
Et
are
de jeunes qui ont
women.
été
There are
mutilés.
5,000
Vous ne savez pas
children
comment on les a
there.
torturés.
Children there.
Donc il y en a qui
Some
sont
are
dans les
just
hôpitaux,
babies,
qui ont
very
été
young
cassés,
children who have
brûlés
suffered.
avec l'acide. Tout ça, ça demande
Some
de
of these
l'argent
children
pour
were
les faire soigner.
castrated,
Il y a plus de
and
300
they had to put acids upon them. These
qui ont
children
dû
need to
quitter les
be
universités
treated.
dans mon pays,
They need
qui
medical
doivent
care.
retourner dans les
There are
universités.
300
Où est-ce qu'on va
students who were
trouver cet argent? Il y a les
banned from
mamans
the
qui ont,
universities. They need
parce
to go
qu'on a
back to
tué
the
leurs
universities.
maris, qui ont
But
fui avec les enfants.
how to get
Et dans la capitale
the money?
de
There are
Kigali,
women
c'est
with
très
children
cher. Et
whose
se
husbands
retrouvent
were
sans
killed.
rien, ne peuvent pas manger. Je crois que même si on me donnait,
These
je
people have
demande
nothing to
toujours,
eat.
et la Banque mondiale devait, et toutes ces
No matter
organisations
how much
devaient
money
se
you give me,
focaliser,
that will
voir
never
que
be
ce sont
enough. I
ces
will always
enfants.
need more.
Ces enfants que nous avons, c'est l'unique richesse de
The
l'humanité.
international organizations
C'est
should
ça.
see these
La seule
children.
richesse,
This
nous
treasure,
l'abandonnons
children are
et nous
treasure of
achetons
the
les
entire
armes.
humanity.
Si
That's the
on
most
arrêtait
precious
une
thing
fois
that we
seulement
have, but
ceux
we
qui
are
vendent des
throwing
armes,
them
on
into the
pourrait
wind.
construire des hôpitaux,
If we
on pourrait
could stop
construire les
those
universités.
who
Et si on
sell
veut que le monde
weapons, we could
devienne un monde où il fait bon
build
vivre, il
universities.
faut envoyer
If we
tous ces
want
jeunes, tous
peace,
ces enfants
if
à
we want the
l'école.
world to be
S'ils
a
sont
better
bien
place,
éduqués,
we
le
need
monde
to
deviendra
send all
un
of these
paradis.
children to school. When they study, all of them study at school, the world will become a paradise.
Do you have one?
Hello, my name is Aaron Sharinian. I represent the United Nations Foundation, and we applaud and support everything that you've said about the role of girls and women around the world. The question that I have is, which of you could teach us something about the role of faith communities? Because oftentimes the role of faith can be detrimental to girls and women, where there are some practices that are dangerous, and at the same time, faith communities can be revolutionary in having the sorts of enlightened approaches that you've brought to the world. So what can we learn about how we work with faith communities around the world on these issues?
And I have to give a shout out for the UN Foundation's Girls Up program. If you're not familiar with it, look it on the website. It's great. You do amazing jobs. Would you like to take on the question of faith and religion?
Thank you. I think faith community, in my community, they are playing their positive role to change. They support to us and to our community who are Christian. Before, actually, in the bricklands where slave and bonded laborers live, they use some so-called illiterate preacher that you are getting money, you are eating their food, so you have to obey them. So in these conditions, these faith organizations and community, they teach them right way, and they told this is not right, this is wrong, and this is your right, this is not against the religion. So the so-called preacher, they preach that if you will get out, you will free from this place, you will not obey your master, so you will go wrong, you will go to hell, God will not happy with you, and Jesus will not happy with you, so you have to obey your master. Then faith community, they come and they change their mind, they accordingly teach them right way.
Okay, we have about 4 minutes left, so I'm going to ask
Can I quickly-
Leymah, just Leymah, and I think
I
Maggie
think
wanted to say
over
something.
time, we we underestimate the power of faith community. There's a World Council of Churches that set up agendas for different world global issues. And I don't see a lot of our activist group or advocate groups engaging them. 2 years ago, they were in South Korea, where they were talking about many different things, including women's rights, and some of the issues of domestic violence and violence against women came up. And by the time you talk about it, the room is as quiet as anything, and you realize that a lot of our global leaders will pay attention to what the Pope will say, what the chief imam will say. So I think what we need to do is take our advocacy to the doors of these global religious entities. Start talking with them, not talking to ourselves all of the time, as my 14-year-old daughter said once upon a time. So I think engagement is the word, real engagement.
You want to say? Only if we can go on to another question, unless you want to.
Je crois que nous n'avons qu'une seule religion, c'est l'amour. Je crois que les gens...
I believe in love.
Moi, personnellement, si je n'étais pas chrétienne, je me serais suicidée.
If I
Parce que
weren't a Christian, I would commit suicide. What I survived, loss of family, 60 persons.
J'ai pris les gens même
But I was able to continue to live.
au massacre de ma famille. Je les ai
Even
pris chez moi
those
parce
who
que
were
je
involved in the
croyais en
massacre,
cette
who killed my
phrase.
family, I
Pardonne-leur,
reconciliated myself with
ils ne
them.
savaient pas ce qu'ils font. Ce qui manque souvent dans tout ce que nous
I have been
faisons,
always
c'est
saying
que nous oublions aussi
mercy them because they don't know what they
Nous
do.
oublions
We shouldn't
toutes les
forget, we
guerres.
should forgive.
Regardez, même autour de nous, je suis en
Look around.
Arménie. Les guerres,
I'm here in Armenia.
parce qu'on ne tolère
Why
pas
the wars take place?
l'autre, parce qu'on ne
Because
pardonne pas.
We
Je crois
are
que
we're
aux
not
Nations
tolerable. We
Unies,
don't forgive.
J'ai travaillé beaucoup avec les agences des Nations Unies.
I
Ce qui
worked a
me
lot in United
cette
Nations with
humilité.
United Nations.
D'être à l'écoute des petits
There's lack
gens.
of
Parce que vous
tolerance.
travaillez,
There's no
vous
commitment
n'écoutez pas
to
Dieu.
listen
Vous travaillez
to simple
pour
people.
les
You in
les
the
objectifs,
United
des
Nations there
stratégies,
work.
des mécanismes, des
You
résultats
have
attendus.
objectives,
Et vous
there's
n'êtes pas
mechanism,
assez
strategy,
Comme
results,
Jésus-Christ pour dire,
and outputs, and
je fais la volonté
you don't
de
speak
Dieu. Mettez un peu
yourself.
de cette humilité, ces
I
valeurs
commit to
Ces
God's
valeurs.
will. We need
spirituelles, et vous allez voir,
commitment.
toutes les œuvres
It's a value.
vont changer. Et ça va rayonner, ça portera
All
un
what you do
rayonnement.
will
Et tout le monde
change,
va s'émerveiller. Acceptez d'être dérangé aussi.
and everyone would be.
We can take one
Excited.
final question, and then we're going to have to move on to our next panel, if anyone has a final question. Okay, no, yeah, okay, one final question there, and then we'll wrap up.
From Human Rights Watch. I guess my question is a general question for any of the panelists that want to answer. Can you share a bit more about the risks and the threats involved in the work that you do and the courageous work that you do in terms of intervention and helping various groups in defending human rights in general, the threats that you might have received either from governments or even local community leaders or even friends or relatives. So can you elaborate a bit more on that? Thank you.
Go to Josephine.
It's interesting because the work that we do is all about risks, like right from starting it off. And one of the risky issues is, as I said earlier, is we are balancing between culture and the law. And for me, actually, I've been threatened by the villagers, the community, because they think I'm going against the law, the culture. And I have been also threatened by men who have gone to school, because, for example, we had a PhD holder going back to the village to marry a 14-year-old while his last daughter is 21 years old. So it didn't make sense. So we had to push for this guy to be arrested. And everyone was against me, like, why are you preventing this girl from going to get a rich man? So that was how they looked at it. But they didn't see this girl's rights are being violated. So like the recent case we've had was a government chief who is like 54 years old, almost retiring from service, and he's supposed to be the one protecting these children from the household level, but he goes ahead and marries a 12-year-old girl as a third wife, and we have to arrest him. He is government, we are arresting this guy, and every one of us, everybody thinks we are crazy because we are trying to use the law to arrest the same person is supposed to be using the same law to protect these children. So it's a conflict of the work, the interest of the people, and the law. So basically, it's a risky job, but we can't stop because we need these girls to be protected and to have a better future. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm afraid we'll have to stop there. Our panelists will be around for the next few days. Feel free to continue the conversation in the hallways and over dinners. But I think we heard some amazing, very powerful statements. The same richness of humanity, get people to look at the bigger picture, be practical, no more know-it-all men. Listen, provide dignity, and above all, educate your girls and your children. So thank you for a wonderful panel.
Thank you very much, Nancy, and thank you very much to the panelists. I mean, if you think about the number of people that the panelists in front of you have helped over the course of their work so far, it is pretty extraordinary. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. And I don't know if you sort of agree with me, but the way I see it is what we've got here today is great moral authority, great moral leadership, fearless commitment. I mean, we've been hearing about the kind of purest form of altruism. And some really extraordinary stories right from the outset, actually, from Leymah Gbowee, the story that you told about the lady who was caring for the soldier only to discover that he had actually killed his own daughter, and she went on to continue to care for him. The story from Margarita Baron-Kitsy. I mean, these are amazing experiences that you have, but you continue to do powerful, very positive work in the world. And of course, from Sayeeda Ghulam Fatima, who has faced herself, as she told us, enormous threats to do the work that you're doing in Pakistan, saving so many children. And finally, Josephine Kalea, who has, you know, as you heard from her, has saved over 1,000 young girls who are in forced marriages or being abused. And I think what is most powerful, and it leads us actually onto the next panel, was the photograph that you all saw of the 8-year-old girl that Josephine rescued this week. It's the power of the image to move people actually to take action and do something. And I'm sure, like me, you were very struck by those two images that were put up there. So please, one final round of applause for our panelists and our moderator.